can hear me? Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dear Stefan, dear Pat, dear friends, dear hosts, dear guests, let me welcome each and every one of you again to my country, to my beloved city, and most importantly to my election district. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you. The European movement, whose structure and vision and values were shaped by founders of European Union, great visionaries like Konrad Adenauer, Churchill, Spark, Spinelli, have a very important role. And the fact that we're having this Congress here in Istanbul today means a lot to me. Although they had a vision, we are still far from reaching their objective 60 years after their dream. My good friend Pat quoted one of the founding fathers of the United States. I want to quote one of the founding fathers of European Union, Winston Churchill, who said, "Success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm." That explains Turkey's adventure with EU. We're not losing our enthusiasm. As Pat knows very well, the European Parliament building in Strasbourg has a roof that is unfinished. I cannot think of a better symbol that shows the enlargement of the European Union is not completed unless Turkey is in it. I would also like to remind that there's an expression in French language for come a Turk, which means strong like a Turk. I believe it will take Turkey to make sure to keep that roof from falling in, as it had already started to be done before. Enlargement and deepening of the Union are not necessarily conflicting goals. On the contrary, European movement has long realized that they feed each other. When we look at the different groups that participate in the Istanbul Congress today, we come face to face with our idea of enlarged Europe, the greater Europe that has completed its enlargement. This greater Europe can only be achieved through making the European Union a project of the people. The civil society organizations have a key role for both in terms of widening and deepening the European Union. The role of the interaction between the civil society and the government is twofold. One is providing the public with objective information. The second essential issue is transferring the demands of the civil society to the government. And a well-developed relationship between civil society and government assures a transparent, efficient and healthy democratic regime. I've been very much interested in establishing closer relations with the civil society since I took my position as Turkey's chief negotiator. One of the first meetings we had that took place in Ankara 2 years ago was attended by more than 1,200 people representing more than 600 NGOs that represent different walks of life. And that day, people who are responsible for my safety and security were very nervous because we had representatives coming from the very right of the political spectrum to the very left of the political spectrum. Very conservative people, very liberal people. And one of the professors of this great university accepted my invitation to chair the meeting. Eser Karakaş, at the end of the day, said, "I do not think of any other concept besides European Union that could keep all these people from very different walks of life in peace with each other for a whole day," and they all applauded each other. People representing different tastes in life, different lifestyles, respected each other's opinions and actually applauded each other. That encouraged us to continue with our civil society meetings, and by now we have already completed more than 5 enlarged civil society summits. And additionally, I've been visiting many different civil society groups. Mr. Hisarcıklıoğlu and I have been traveling throughout Turkey to talk about EU and how it affects the business community in the local and in the national prospect. I'm grateful to his support. As one of the leaders of the civil society groups in Turkey, he's a true believer in European Union, despite all the difficulties. But we still have difficulties. Pat mentioned the change in Turkey and about the doctors who were reporting about torture. I think that was a very important example. We live in a country which executed its own prime minister 50 years ago. We live in a country where books of Kafka and Dostoevsky were collected and burned 30 years ago. 10 years ago, mayor of this great city of Istanbul was imprisoned for reciting a poem. Believe it or not, 3 years ago, I was prosecuted by the highest court of the country for having said that people's representatives should represent the people. But things are changing in Turkey. And the change is on a daily basis. 2 nights ago, there was a very important judicial reform package that was passed by the parliament. Makes me feel better about the future of my children. And this change will continue. This change will continue because it has full backing of the civil society, which represents the people. Ambassador Bozkır is one of the longest veterans of Turkey's EU adventure. He remembers and reminds me a time back in the 90s when they wanted to organize meetings of the civil society groups. They didn't know who else to call, and they would call the Red Crescent, the Green Crescent. But today, after Turkey getting a date to start EU negotiations, so many new NGOs have flourished. Today I'm very proud to share with you that we have more than 100,000 active civil society organizations, including associations, foundations, trade unions, platforms, and they all operate in a very liberal setting, and they all respect each other.